Hello everybody, my name is Mike Ag, and in this video we will be going over part 8 of the mini-series on object-oriented game development. At this point our game is pretty much done. I mean, we've got our ship moving around, we've got our shots and explosions and stuff like that. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to add basically the game states, the audio, and the rest of the logic that's going to make our game work here. So I do want to open up globals.h just to show you again here the state enumeration that we did back at the beginning, just to show you it's there. Just, you know, in case you guys forgot about it. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my states in the game. Alright, if you remember this from the states part of the 2D game development series, I'm going to use a simple finite state machine using an integer state based on an enumeration. So it's all going to seem, you know, pretty familiar to you if you happen to remember that. So for my prototype, I'm going to do void change state, and I'm going to read in int by reference state and int new state. Awesome. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy that and bring it all the way down to the bottom. Now we're going to do something slightly different with the states in this game, and I'll show you what that is when I get there. So I'm going to do if state equals title, and then else if state equals playing, else if state equals lost, and then I'm going to do state equals new state, and then I'm just going to do these, oops, I have an extra space in there, do these all over again. Now it is possible to build your state machine as an object, like we've been doing with all our other objects. However, at this point I think I've pretty much, you know, shown you the ins and outs of object-oriented programming and inheritance, polymorphism, and all those things. So at this point I'm just going to try to wrap the game up. Plus that level of complexity for this very simple state situation we're using is really unnecessary. That's the sort of thing you see more or less with a finite state machine AI, and since we're not doing any of that, you know, we really don't need that in this video. So okay, so when I'm leaving my my title state, actually, you know what, and I'm just going to grab this here before I forget about it, and I'm just going to dump an empty one up there in my render. I'll come back to that. I just wanted to save it. Okay, so we don't really want to do anything when we leave the title. We don't need to do anything. We are going to do something when we leave playing, and I'll come back to that. And we don't necessarily need to do anything when we leave the lost. Alright? What I want to do is I want to talk about first what happens when we enter the playing state. Okay? Remember how I created that ship init function so that I could just reinitialize the ship over and over and over again? We're going to do that here. We're going to say ship init. And the reason we're going to do that, and remember we can pass in a bitmap here, we're not going to, that's fine, it's set up that way. So when we start the game, it'll set the lives to 3 and the score to 0, and then after say we've lost the game, if we go back into playing the game, this will reinitialize the ship back to 3 lives and to a 0 score. So this is what clears us out here. Alright? Now, what we want to worry about is what happens when we leave the playing state. Now, in our previous game, if you left the playing state, you know, and then you came back into the playing state, everything was pretty much how it was. I mean, your ship got reinitialized, but everything else was pretty much, you know, the way it was. Since we have this list of objects, what we can do is we can go through and we can get rid of all the volatile objects. By volatile objects, I mean like the comets and the bullets, things that, you know, there's a lot of them and they go away, and they're basically, you know, the game objects that are not permanent, like the ship in the background, are more permanent. So what I want to do in here is I want to do for, I want to say iter equals objects dot begin. This should feel pretty familiar by now. Iter does not equal objects dot end, and then plus iter, just like that. Alright, and I want to say, first off, if iter get ID is not equal to player, because remember we don't want to get rid of our player objects, and iter get ID is not equal to miscellaneous. Okay, that means the only thing left is we're going to get rid of backgrounds, or I'm sorry, not backgrounds, because backgrounds are miscellaneous. We're going to get rid of bullets and comments. Okay, those are the ones that fit this build. So if that, and I guess I don't really need these brackets here. If that, I'm just going to do iter set alive to false. I don't have to delete it or get rid of it. That's going to happen for me, right? Because remember, our update cycle still happens even though we're in, a different state. And so these objects will still just get called out of there like normal. All I have to do is just set it to not equal live, and we're done, right? And so now we can go ahead and we can put our state code into our game to control it a little bit better. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to come up here to my update section here, and I'm only going to do all of this stuff if state equals playing. I'm going to get an error. I don't have a state variable yet. That's fine. And I want to put everything inside this if statement except for my quote-unquote call the dead. I still want that to happen. All right. So the only updates that are going to happen are if the state equals play. And there we go. And I just tabbed it over there. And now, just to get rid of that squiggle there, let's go ahead and create our state variable. I'm going to come all the way to the top where I declare my project variables. Where are we here? Right here. And that's going to be int state equals -1. Awesome. Okay, and then I'm going to come back down to my render, and I copied all this code over here while I had it. So while we are in the playing state, I want to go ahead and draw our ship and the well, basically all of our objects. All that stuff is going to come here inside the playing method. All right. Tab that. Awesome. Okay. Great. We'll also remember that we need to use our spacebar to transition between our title menu, the game, and then between our lost menu and back to the game. So the spacebar is really what toggles all that. So I'm going to come back up here to my key down where we fire our bullets, and we just need to modify that slightly. And so I'm going to say right here, I'm going to say if state equals title. Alright, so if we're in the title state, then I'm going to change state, pass in state, and change it to playing. Alright, just like that. Else if state equals playing. Right there, and I'll put that inside these parentheses, or no, they're not parentheses, but the brackets. And then finally, else if state equals lost, then game state, or the change state, pass in state, and back to the playing state. Great. Okay, so that's fantastic. All right, so at this point, we're not going to see anything. We don't have our menus in or anything like that. I'm just going to build this here, make sure it works. And before we can test this, we need to essentially initialize our state by setting it or changing it the first time. So remember, our state is -1 to begin with. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to, right above my timer, I'm going to change state. This will be the first state change of the game, and I'm going to set the game into the title state. Now when I run this, we're going to see nothing, right? Nothing's being drawn. There's no title menu, and I don't have anything in the render section here. When I hit the spacebar though, our game starts being played. Alright, oh fantastic. Well, I can't let myself die yet because the code's not in the game to stop at a certain point. So let me go ahead and put that in. Alright, but remember that there's no beginning title menu, no lost menu, or screens just yet. So we'll get there in a second. In my update, right after my collisions, I'm simply going to say if ship get lives is less than or equal to 0, change state lost. Alright, now we can test this out. Oh, lost isn't working there. Oh, I forgot. We have to pass in state and lost. There we go. That's much better. And so once again, we see the blank screen. I hit spacebar. We're playing the game. I'll go ahead and let myself die here. Bam, bam, bam. Awesome. Blank screen again. We'll put that in there, but spacebar brings me back into the game. Okay, and so I just ran this and noticed an error. And I'll go ahead and show you guys the error. While I'm playing, let me see if I get this set up right. Okay, so I've died. Now what's going to happen is when I come back into my game, the explosions are still going to be there. We don't want that to happen. See, the explosions were still there. The reason is, if I come over to my explosion.cpp, I can see the ID of an explosion is miscellaneous. Originally, when I originally made the game, I made it enemy, and this time I made it miscellaneous. And obviously, if we look at our change state, we get rid of only things that are not players and not miscellaneous. The reason I'm showing you this instead of just fixing it behind the scenes is because I wanted to illustrate just how nice a more thought out object-oriented approach to development is. Alright, I want to show you how easy it is to fix this error. I'm going to come over here to my globals.h right here, and I'm going to create a new type. My new enumeration ID type is going to be explosion. And I'm going to come over to my explosion CPP, and boom. Now let's go ahead and try her out. Since it's no longer miscellaneous, it should get removed from the object list when the state changes. Okay, and no more explosion. Perfect. Now it works great. While I'm talking about that, I want to show you something else too. I mentioned earlier that we did not have the code in place to change the collision destruction for the spaceship. In a matter of fact, that was not true, and I went ahead and fixed it in between videos. The problem was, and if you've just been following along with the videos, you're going to have the same issue. I originally typed this as collide, alright? And that's a problem because in our game object, the virtual function is collided. Okay, and so this function wasn't running, so I had to change it to collided there and collided here, and then it worked, where I decremented the lives just fine. So, so now my game works, and we'll run it here again, and blank screen, I'm playing the game, and then it would be blank screen again when I lost. Alright, great. So now let's go ahead and put these screens in. Alright, so I'm going to come back here to main, and I'm going to create a couple more backgrounds. Only this time, I'm not going to put the backgrounds into my objects list. Okay, I want to keep them outside of my object list. It makes it easier. I want to show you that not everything has to go into the objects list, right? Some things it's better when you don't put them in there, and these two screens are going to be that way. All right, so I'm going to do background, and my background is going to be title screen, and I'm going to do background pointer lost screen. Okay, I need those. And while I'm at it, while I'm here, I'm going to do Allegro sample instance. I'll need this later when I go ahead and make the sound for my game. So instance. Alright. Awesome. And now I'm going to come down to my my project variables, and I'm going to go ahead and load in or create the variables that are going to control the images there. So I'm going to have an Allegro bitmap, and my Allegro bitmap is going to be title image, set that equal to null. I'm also going to do Allegro bitmap, and I'm going to do lost image, I'll set that equal to null. And while I'm here, because I'm going to need to do it anyway, I'm going to do Allegro sample, and it'll be shot equal to null. I'll just copy this whole line, and we're going to have shot, we're going to have boom, and we're going to have song. Awesome. Okay. I'll worry about the sound stuff later, but I just wanted to get that in there now. Okay, and so since I created these variables, I'm going to go ahead and down and do my memory management now before I forget. So I'm going to have L destroy bitmap, and I'm going to be destroying title image, and I'll be destroying lost image. I'm also going to L destroy sample, and I'll destroy shot. I'll copy that, and I'm also going to destroy boom and song, and I'm going to type song in here again, or song instance, and change this to destroy sample instance, just like that. And then there's a little bit of other memory management I have to do. I'm going to go ahead right above this, and I'm going to do title screen destroy and lost screen destroy. Notice I have to do these because these aren't in objects, so I have to manually do this. And then I'm going to delete title screen, and I'm going to delete lost screen. As a simple rule of thumb for C++ programming, anytime you associate new with something, associate delete with it. I know we're getting this here because we haven't used the new yet, but we're about to, and so we might as well just take care of it now. Alright, and so let's come back up here at the top. Right here, and I'm going to, right after I push back my ship, right here, actually I'll just do it right after all this stuff here. I'm going to do title image equals al load bitmap, and I'm going to pass into that shooter underscore title dot png. Alright, grab that line, paste it there, and that's going to be shooter lose, and that's going to be lost image right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and create my background object, which is going to be title screen equals new. Remember that new keyword I was talking about. New background, and the image is going to be title image, and then my float velocity x is going to be 0 because these screens aren't going to move around. They're not scrolling backgrounds. I'm going to do lost screen equals new background, and I'm going to pass in lost image, and there we go, just like that. Fantastic. And now all I need to do is I need to modify my render to render these. So I'll come down to my render section, and if the state equals title, then I'm just going to do title screen render, and if it's lost, I'm going to do lost screen render. Great. Okay, I have an error, and I'm scrolling down here, and I see my mistake here. Title screen and lost screen are not functions. I threw with the parentheses in there because I saw them right above there, so my mistake. And I'll run it now, and I see super awesome space shooter, and I'll press play or space to play, and having a good old time. And then when I go ahead and die here, bam! All right, you lose. Press spacebar to play again. Awesome, and everything resets. Great. That's pretty cool. Okay. Another thing I want to do now, now that I've pretty much figured out exactly how my game plays. Have you ever noticed how in my game all the comments come at the exact same? There's going to be like 3 more come in, right? Bam, bam, bam. I guess it would be 4. It's because I'm not seeding my random number generator. I did that intentionally to begin with, and I forgot to mention it, of course, so that I had a consistent play experience for testing. Now that I'm pretty sure I know how I want it to go, I'm going to come up here to my right above my timer init, and I'm just going to do srand time null extra parenthesis, and now my game will play differently every time I play it. So now it's brand new. Everything's a little bit different. Awesome. Okay, so we've just put in our title screens. We've just put in our state. We have our game over detection in there. So now the last thing I want to do is to handle our audio. All right. To handle our audio, to put our sounds in the game, the very top here under my project, I'm going to do al reserve sample or samples. Sorry, samples, and I'm going to reserve 15. And the previous examples I did 10, but now we're shooting, as many as we want, and so I may need more sounds than just 10, so I'm going with 15. Alright, so that should be pretty straightforward. And then I'm going to go ahead and right above my change state, I'm going to do shot equals al load sample, and I'm going to pass in shots dot ogg aux vorbis, copy that, paste it 3 times. That's going to be boom, and that's going to be song, and that's going to be boom, and that's going to be song. Great, easy enough. And then I'm going to do song instance equals al create sample instance, and I'm going to pass into it song, and then I need to register it. So, well, before I register it, actually, I want to set its play mode to loop. I'm going to do al set sample instance play mode, and I'm going to pass in song instance, and my play mode is Allegro play mode loop. Great. Now I need to attach it to my mixer, so I'm going to do al attach sample instance to mixer. Alright, and I'm going to pass in song instance and al get default mixer. Great. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, to play my main song, I'm just going to come down here. Whenever I enter my playing state, I'm going to do al play sample instance, and I'm going to pass in song instance, and I'll just copy that. Whenever I leave the playing state, I'm going to do al stop sample instance. Yep, pretty easy there. Great. And now I want to go to my collision area, and I'm going to start with whenever I press spacebar to shoot a bullet, I'm going to come up here first, and right after we push back our bullet, I'm going to do al play sample, and I'm going to pass in shot. Now I do want to point out, it's probably a good, there's more to that. It's probably good programming practice in future game development endeavors to put the sound, the shot sound, inside your ship. Your ship's the one making the sound, right? It's good to have this composition where some objects contain other objects. So the sound really should belong to the ship. And along those veins, we could say that the boom sound, the explosion, belongs to the comet, only because the comet's involved in all explosions. Either the comet's hitting the ship or a bullet's hitting a comet. Either way, you have a comet involved. So you can use this thing called composition, where you put one class inside the other one. But like I said, I was going kind of more or less for simplicity near the end of this, kind of just getting through it here, because at this point I've recorded 8 videos in less than a day and a half, so I'm just trying to push through. So yeah, just that's kind of food for thought. That's something you can do in the future. But anyway, okay, so my gain is going to be 1, my pan is 0, speed's 1, my player mode is going to be Allegro play mode once, and nothing there. Not an O, but a 0. Great. I'm actually going to copy this. So that'll play the sound whenever I shoot, and now let's play the sound whenever I explode, which happens here right after I push back an explosion. I'm going to do AL play sample, and I'm going to play boom with the same settings. Okay, before we can run this and listen to all our great sounds, we need one more thing. Something I forgot to do previously is we need to initialize the add-on. Alright, and so I'm going to do al init, or actually al install audio, and al init a codec add-on, just like that. Great. Alright, and so now it looks like we are ready to go. Okay, great, so I'll go ahead and run this. And there's my super awesome space shooter. I'll press space to start. And we've got boom, boom, boom. We've got great sound effects. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it looks like no matter how many I'm shooting there, I can still get all my sounds in, so that's good. Awesome. Okay, so at this point, it looks like we have a finished game. Kind of in summary, to talk about what we've looked at, we have we've used object-oriented programming. We've made classes. We have a base class. We have several child classes. using inheritance. We've demonstrated virtual functions and the use of polymorphism, which in turn relies on dynamic binding. We've looked at all sorts of stuff. So that's going to pretty much do it for my object-oriented game development mini-series here. Just wanted to give you a chance to see how to develop a game pretty much using classes. If you're a C++ expert and you're watching this and you're thinking, man, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, you're probably right. I did it pretty quick just to show everybody, and it's certainly not necessarily the best way to do everything. However, as we just saw, it worked. We have a game running, and really at the end of the day, is what it's all about. So, awesome. I appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned for any future projects.